obviously of eating any kind of worms or that can be found in vegetables, bugs, flies. So it says you're not allowed to eat fruits or vegetables that it's common to have worms in them. If they're common to have it, I don't know, broccoli, for example, cilantro, parsley, things that are common to have worms. You're not allowed to eat them before you wash them. Before you make sure that it's not there.
Dates, always dates.
Fruits and vegetables that they have a hole in them, even if it's in a usual way, even if in the usual way. You don't see worms in these veggies, but since there is a hole, you have to check it very carefully because of the concern of worms. Maybe they were hanging around the fruit and they went back inside. Fruits and vegetables that have a black stain, you have to remove the stain from. You have to dig in and remove the stain, because that's where usually the place where the worm starts to where the worm starts to penetrate into the food.
Weak spot.
Yeah. So that's really an indication. You see a hole, you see a black stain. It's an indication that something is going on. And this is in fruits and vegetables that are not common to have worms. If it's common to have worms, regardless, you have to check it. Whether there is a mark or there's no mark, you have to check it. You have an indication or without the indication, you have to check. Like I said, for example, cilantro might be common veggies that you can find bugs. So you can't just take the cilantro from the vegetable store, put it on your cutting board and start chopping it. You got to wash it and wash it well to make sure there's nothing in there. Fruits and vegetables that it's common to have worms in them, and by mistake you cooked it with before checking it. So what's halacha? Let's say you didn't know. Took those vegetables and you cooked them. You made the vegetable soup. Put them in the soup. If they are the minority, or if it's sometimes you find worms in them, sometimes not. He brings the example of a cabbage, lettuce. Then you're allowed to eat it because it's a doubt whether there was worms to begin with. But still there's a doubt, maybe there's another doubt because maybe the worms were smashed and were cut into pieces. But if it's fruits and vegetables that are commonly, they are aggressively all around, there's bugs and this, then it's not going to be kosher. So really we learned a few things. Number one is you should wash, if it's common to have, you should wash, you should not eat it without washing. Number two, if it's not common to have worms, but there's some kind of indication, then you have to dig in and you have to make sure to clear it up. Make sure there's no doubt. Number three, if you by mistake cooked it without checking, so we have to look at what was it. If it's cabbage or something that it's sometimes has worms, sometimes doesn't. Since there's a doubt whether there is worms and whether it was crushed and smashed, then it was probably crushed and smashed. It's not, because we have an issue with eating a whole thing. If it's a full worm, it's an issue. If it's half of it, obviously to begin with, you're not allowed to eat it. But after the fact, if you ate it and it's not visible to the naked eye, you don't have to bring microscope and to check your vegetables with a microscope. There's no halachic. It's an obligation to start checking your veggies with microscope. You're talking about something that you can see with the naked eye. So in this case, if these fruits and veggies are not common to have worms, then you don't have to check them. Meaning that the dish would be kosher. If it was placed into a dish without checking, the dish would be kosher. If it's all over the place, and you know this for sure there was bugs, and you did not wash it before cooking it, then you have to you have to throw out the whole thing. And sometimes if there's so much more, meaning that there's a lot of let's say it's a big pot, so there's certain cases if there's a big loss involved. There's some rabbis would make it kosher if they can argue that it's being nullified by the 60, by 100, by 1,000. Depends what the situation is. But in general, we learned from this halacha that you have to check, wash the veggies, make sure they are. Maybe if you have a strong light under the microwave, you should check and see there's nothing there.
Okay, closely related halacha. Sorry. Same thing, worms, but in fish. There are a lot of species of parasitic worms that burrow into the flesh of fish.
So if it starts to be common, then you should not eat the fish without checking, without washing it and checking that there's nothing there.
That's awful. I've seen that.
Many of them are, especially the freshwater species.
By the way,
Salt as well.
Salt fish
The
also.
deeper fish in the salt will have worms in the deeper depths.
Even if they're fresh.
Yeah, they're fresh. You can pull them up and you can see they live